Yeah. So, yeah, the Garage Crew was a huge influence on our high school punk rock scene we had, and my guest I have here today was a big part of that crew, and he happened to be one of the youngest people of that crew. So that could be a story in himself how he met this gang of Garage Crew. But yeah, welcome to the show, everybody. This is Chris Dencker. Chris, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being a part of this. And yeah, again, you guys were just like, I don't know, we just really looked up to you. And then just, with the parties and then the warehouse, we had the shows. It was like you guys had your own little thing going on. So how did that all start with you?
That's kind of how the punk scene in Beloit kind of was. Back in the 90s, there were a couple of venues that were doing shows. The old Alumni House, remember that place?
Yep.
This was back in the time before the internet was a big thing. So we found out about shows through word of mouth.
Right.
We'd see a flyer hanging somewhere and, grab a copy of it. We'd haul it into the smoking section at IHOP and be like, hey, guys, there's a show on Friday. Who's going? And round a crew up and carpool, and 30 or 40 of us would head down there for a show.
And yeah, you just check it out whether you've heard it or not. You're just like, the logo looks cool, the sound's cool, or yeah.
You're right, exactly. Hey, there's something going on besides loitering in a coffee shop or getting into trouble.
Right, exactly. The old coffee shop, Pancake House.
Mm-hmm.
So what about, how did you meet, Q and Zen and Caleb?
Honestly, all those guys I met as I had seen a flyer at Paradise Guitars, actually, for a show that was going on at the Alumni House. And I think I was 13 or 14, and I convinced my mom to give me a lift down there and to pick me up a couple hours later. And yeah, just by randomly going to these shows at the Alumni House, ran into these folks, met these folks. And then, when there weren't concerts going on, hanging out at IHOP, during the early dial-up days of the internet, a lot of the old punk crew were some of the first folks on the internet in Beloit and Janesville. And so a lot of them met each other through these online chat rooms and bulletin board systems.
Oh, cool. I didn't realize that. Yeah, that was the really early days of any sort of chat board or whatever you want to call it, chat group.
Yep.
Wait, so you were 13 and they let you into the alumni no problem, or it was just like punk rock that way?
Well, these were all ages shows.
Oh, cool. Okay.
The Alumni House, for those who aren't familiar with it in Beloit, is a bar on one half of the building, but the other half of the building it's kind of a back room. It had a separate entrance. There was no alcohol served and no alcohol available back there. I mean, it was basically just like a banquet hall that people could rent out. So promoters would rent it for $100 or $200 a night,
right?
And throw concerts, charge admission at the door, and boom.
That's pretty cool. I didn't realize that.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was just more based around the college, because it's actually on the campus. Or
no,
am I thinking of I'm thinking of the C House. Sorry, I'm mistaking it. Jeez.
The C House was another great venue for bands, but yeah, that's the Beloit College campus bar.
Okay. Right on.
But, as a teenager, I did help plan some shows there and help get some Beloit local bands into there as well. We had Boris the Sprinkler from Green Bay, Mulligan Stew from Rockford, and if you remember, Overcrowded Underground. They were big when I was a freshman and sophomore. Okay. So, you guys would have been 7th, 8th grade-ish then.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got them, a Beloit Turner and Beloit Memorial high school band. 2 members from each high school. But we got them to play at the college at the C House.
That's awesome.
It was a benefit for the local battered women's shelter.
So this was almost like became a second home in a sense throughout high school, just like doing shows.
The Alumni House more so, but the C House, we did a couple of shows there. I played there once when I was in one of my old bands, the Mountain Lions. So the C House, not so much, but the Alumni House, oh, definitely, man. That was the spot to be.
Cool. And then, there was one other spot that was one of the main spots in Beloit, or like Pizza Pit, or
in Janesville, there was a place called the Bump Club that booked a bunch of shows, and I actually never made it there. It was shut down by the time I had transportation. Okay, but they booked a bunch of bands too.
And then, so if I was a freshman when there was that big warehouse show, I guess you were like a senior?
Yeah, it would have been my senior year, yeah.
And so was that like the beginning of the warehouse, or did they already kind of have that going on?
No, the warehouse, honestly, one of our members, Q,
Right.
worked for a company down in Roscoe, Illinois. And his boss owned this old, well, we called it a warehouse, but it's more like a machine shop. He rented out big chunks of the building. Like the guy next door to us was a motorcycle mechanic. And so he had a couple of lifts and his toolboxes there. And they had a couple other small businesses that rented out space, but the furthest space down the little strip was vacant. I mean, there was just a bunch of old shelves and old tools and crap lying around and a whole bunch of space that wasn't being used.
Wow.
Well, Q's boss gave us the quiet, okay, we could throw shows there. He just didn't want to know about it, didn't want to get calls from the cops, and didn't want anything coming back on him about it. So we basically were squatting there. We weren't legally there. You know, he just kind of turned a blind eye to the fact that we were doing it.
And it was rent free, and it was
Yep. Well, but on the same thing though, we did help out, cleaning up around the place here and there.
Right.
But yeah, it was pretty much rent free.
So you guys had like a couple other just small gigs or whatever shows there before that insane one?
We had a few. We started doing shows there. I want to say it was like March. It's like February or March of 2000. So we did stuff there basically just through like spring and summer was about all we did there. So maybe 5-6 months of shows there.
Right, and then that huge one, the cops did come, and that kind of stopped some things, or I don't remember.
No, the cops came by, but there was nothing serious going on. They were just concerned because they saw a crap load of cars there and didn't know why. We did the one all-day festival, the Punk Drunk Fest, as we called it.
That's right,
I mean, we had, I don't know, like 12 bands. The thing went all day long, and the cops showed up, but there was nothing illegal going on that they could find, so we kept on going.
And this is the infamous show where Alex Huffman lit his hand on fire, if you remember.
Yes. Oh, and we were asked about that in advance. Alex tried to clear it with us. For those of you who don't know, hairspray is flammable. Yeah. So Alex had apparently done this trick a bunch of times before.
Yeah.
And before had used nice light hairspray. You light it on fire, it burns off quick. And your hand's on fire for a couple of seconds, but you basically get out unscathed. The problem is that this time he grabbed like rave number 4, like super hold, the most hardcore hairspray you can get this time. So the stuff was like liquid napalm. So he basically just like douses his hand in like tar and lights it on fire. And then when he tries to wave it and blow it out, is shocked as hell when, it's not going out. And you see this look of panic come up on his face.
And he runs to the bathroom with the sink or something.
Yep, exactly. We ran him to the bathroom, ran his hand under cold water.
Yeah, I remember looking at it and it was like lathered before you could see like a oily substance like dripping, and it's like that doesn't look good.
Yeah, it doesn't look good at all.
I actually ended up like we like rode in the back of someone's truck like after that. I rode like me and him, and I think I don't know where we went, but yeah, he was in a lot of pain. I think he got like 3rd-degree burns or something. It was crazy.
It was pretty hardcore, yeah.
And it was all for the sake of like shock value, or that was 6-Man Army. That was the band.
Yep. Yep, I remember that.
But I just remember that being a really crazy day, and it was like an all-day event. And you guys had recording equipment, right? Because you were trying to make like the comp.
Yeah, with that. Well, that's kind of the funny thing. That a little bit of the backstory on that. So the Alumni House was doing shows, through the 80s and 90s. And around the mid-90s, it kind of started drying up. Two of the big promoters, it was Johan and Noah, and Pashaw Productions was the name of the company. They did a ton of really cool shows. They had connections with bands that were touring from California. They put on a lot of the cool shows that I got to go to when I was in high school.
Right on.
But then they kind of split things up. The two of them moved to the Twin Cities to try and make something more of their lives and start booking shows and promotions in Minneapolis.
Okay.
So that left a big void. So we started booking some shows at the Alumni House, but eventually the owners of the place decided that they wanted to, get it so they could have alcohol sales back there, put pool tables back there. and have that
Yeah.
space making money when there weren't a bunch of stupid punks renting the place out.
Right.
So the alumni house that had been my home for most of high school and half of 8th grade all of a sudden wasn't an option anymore.
Damn.
So during that time, the winter of 99 to 2000, I was hanging out at the garage with Q and Taz and a couple other guys. And, just kind of randomly, we had guitars lying around. So we decided to start jamming and writing some songs. And my buddy Dave Guernsey, who I'd played in a band with back in like my freshman year of high school, kind of resurfaced. He disappeared for a couple of years, so he jumped in and started playing drums, and Malicious Mischief was born. Me, Dave, Q, and Taz.
Classic.
And so we started recording stuff just on the computer equipment that Q had lying around. And he'd do some stuff, and then he'd get frustrated, so he'd buy something expensive, and he'd just keep buying more and more equipment, whether it was PA equipment or recording equipment or computer software, until eventually we had a pretty good inventory of stuff built up.
Yeah.
And so
solid home studio.
Yep, exactly. We had the PA system, so we used that for the shows at the warehouse. But, after a while, Q kind of figured out, like, well, I've got this stuff and I've been using it for Malicious Mischief recordings. Some of these other bands, around here, they could probably use my help too. So Q would charge like next to nothing, like $5 a song or something. Come in with a couple of microphones and record some rough little demos.
Yeah.
And I'd help him out here and there where I could. And then after a while, work got a little bit more intense for Q, and he didn't really have the time or the energy to throw into it anymore. So I kept recording bands under the Garage Studios name. I had business cards and everything. So I recorded bands pretty much my whole way through college, 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004. And every year we threw a big party, Cinco de Mustache.
Oh, yeah.
And I would actually use the money that we made from recording bands throughout the year. Whatever I made, I set all that money aside, and that was my budget for booking bands for Cinco de Mustache.
That's awesome.
So, culminated, 2004 was the biggest Cinco de Mustache ever. We literally rented out a campground, Camp Rodimer in Janesville.
What?
We had 10 bands, 10 barrels of beer, enough hard liquor to kill an elephant or two, music all day. Oh my God, it was nuts. I played 4 of the bands that day.
Nice.
It was just crazy. It was another all-day punk rock festival. I played in 4 of the bands, and 2 of the other bands were bands I had recorded and gotten money from, which basically was just them handing me money for me to turn around and hand it back to them 6 months later. So,
yeah, exactly, right? Just to party,
But some really cool, really great Wisconsin local bands there, too. My own bands, Mountain Lions International, we were the only reggae band in southern Wisconsin for years.
Yeah, no shit.
Mother Use, awesome. We were doing stuff that would later be called, metalcore in, 2001. Metalcore wasn't even a term yet. We were doing stuff that Killswitch Engage would start doing in 3 or 4 years.
Oh, shit. Wow.
And then some of the bands I recorded, Andy and the Outcry were a great local ska punk band, and I miss those cats a lot. Their album was probably one of the favorite ones I ever got to produce. Just a great, talented band and super, super nice guys.
Right on. Cool. Yeah, that's cool how it can kind of come full circle. You're recording, then you have this huge event. Well, it was like an event. You rent out a campground and it's all day, and everybody had a great time, I would imagine. And,
oh yeah, man, it was a blast.
And so, I take it you have a lot of those recordings still, right? So you got. Do you have a lot of these copies of these bands?
No. No. Sadly, my old studio computer started dying on me. God, probably 2006, and I've still got the hard drive from it, but no, unfortunately, I don't have those recordings anymore. Yeah,
and that was I was kind of recollecting that when you were talking about when Q first started doing it. I'm pretty sure Nifty recorded, but I never actually got or heard the full comp of all those Beloit bands, and I'm sure he just got overwhelmed and it was just not worth the time and whatnot.
I know we did the 3-song disc for the Supermans, and they were one of the first ones. We did 5 songs with the Battletoads.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say we did 6 or 7 with Kick and Timmy. Um,
But wasn't like the Beloit comp like all the Beloit bands? We had like 2 or 3 songs each, or that's what we were trying to do. I felt like.
yeah, that was the goal.
But I think that was like one of the beginning of him offering those services, or maybe not. No.
No, it actually spawned off of an idea because all right, so backtracking chronologically again to my freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
So things had started slowing down at the Alumni House. Pshaw Productions was drying up, and like I said, it would be another year, and those guys would be in the Twin Cities full time. So they had booked a couple of shows, but things were dying. So me and Amy Johnson, Amy J. Nobody, as she was known during those days, we started on trying to put a record label together to get some bands together, do some recordings, and help each other out.
Cool.
Well, I had raised some money and had set some money aside to take a bunch of bands into the studio. So we had 4 bands, and we went to Dynamic Range Studios in Rockford. Everybody set up, was recording. I unfortunately had a bit of a medical issue. I'm a diabetic and had some blood sugar issues while we were in the studio.
Oh, damn. That sucks.
So I wound up in the hospital, and while I was comatose in the hospital, a couple of the guys in some of the bands decided that, well, I was a 14-year-old kid. They decided they could do things better. So they decided they were going to take over. So they owed the studio about $1,000 worth of money. Money that I had set aside, by the way, in a bank account. But once they decided to take over, I'm sorry, you guys are on your own. Right. So I went and supported the shows that they threw to try and raise money to pay the money they owed the recording studio. I paid my $5 to get in, and I think I played 1 or 2 of those shows. So I don't know, I kind of did part of that. Okay. Now, when we fast forward to the warehouse days and, the kind of the glory days of the late 90s, early 2000s Beloit Memorial punk scene, a lot of those bands, like I said, Nifty, Billy's Answering Machine, the Battletoads, the Supermints. Stalefish, yep. Yeah. All those guys, when we started doing recordings for them. Oh, yeah, Stalefish was another one that I think Q did a full album for those guys.
Yeah, that's right.
I didn't have too much to do with that, but I was friends with Ryan, and so I think I might have helped him in maybe arranging some guitar parts for a song or 2. But anyhow, when Q started recording all these bands, I kind of thought back to 4 years prior, like, dude, we should grab some of the best songs from all these recordings we did and just throw them on a comp CD, burn cheap copies of them, like $1 a piece or whatever, and bam, these bands can sell them, as opposed to printing and packaging a CD all on their own. If we get 6 bands and everybody gets 2 songs on it or 3 songs on it, we'll manufacture it, we'll produce it, we'll take our dollar that it costs us to make them back, and you guys keep the profits. Yeah. So that was kind of the idea. I don't know if we ever actually pulled it off or not.
I think there's a copy that exists, but I don't know if it's finished or,
Well, okay, so if any of Jacob's listeners out here have a copy of any of that, or of the Punch Drunk Fest live CD that we put out, there was a live CD from that whole concert. Yeah, a whole day of music condensed down into 1 CD. You can imagine we had to be kind of like 1 song from each band was about all we could fit from that live show.
You're right. You're recording without or throughout, not without. Yeah. I remember that.
But yeah, if anybody has those recordings, please hit one of us up on Facebook or other social media. Let us know. I'd love to get my hands on that if you've got it.
Yes. How many do you keep in contact with much of the old crew, or?
Well, Cinco de Mustache still goes on.
Oh, wow.
It's a much smaller festival. It's now held. Q and a couple of the elder statesmen from the old punk rock community, Steve Dahl and Neil and James, some of those guys have got a house that they own up in Middleton, Wisconsin, and they still do a couple-day camp out in their backyard. They've got a garage with a sound system set up, so they have some artists, not a ton of full bands because it is in a residential neighborhood. You can't get too loud.
Right.
But they'll have mainly, acoustic solo acts up there, and it's still a couple-day festival. That's really about the only time that I see those cats anymore.
Okay. Well, at least you still go to that. That's cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I make a point to go every year that I can. I think I might have missed a year here or there in the last 10 years, but I've made most of them at least for one day or two.
Yeah, it was definitely like part of the tradition. It was something we always look forward to in the
And
Wapatui, man. The Wap.
Yeah, well, the backstory with Cinco de Mustache, for those who don't know.
Yeah, there you go.
That actually stems from, okay, Less Than Jake, if you're familiar with who they are.
I love them.
Great ska punk band. And Zen, back when he was out of high school and didn't really have a full-time job, actually followed them around on tour for a while, like 7 or 8 cities in a row. And
Awesome.
one time, happened to fall on the 5th of May, they joking around sang this Cinco de Mustache song about mustaches. And it just stuck. From that tour on, Zen decided that he was going to throw a Cinco de Mustache party every year.
And if you have a mustache,
I want to say the first one was in like 98 or something. And
he
just kept getting bigger and bigger every year until finally 2004, the big Camp Rodimer one. I mean, that was the biggest it ever got. After that, we had to school it back pretty quick.
And has it always been the rule that if you have a mustache, you drink for free? Or that came out later?
I don't know if that's an official rule, but at several parties, yeah, if you had a mustache, and for those who couldn't grow one, drawing one on or using a prosthetic mustache was perfectly acceptable. But yeah, there were lots of parties where a mustache would let you drink for free.
Right on. That's awesome. And so was there, throughout those years, was the garage house like those main 2 places, or were there multiple? Because I remember the Township and then the one, right by Jerry's Hamburgers, the old place.
Okay. Yeah. So the garage itself was the one, in the Township of Beloit on the north side of town, Burwood Park neighborhood.
Yep.
The garage was named that because it's a house that was literally the size of a single car garage. I mean, it was a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom, tiny little place where a lot of the older punk rock crew had lived at some point in time or another.
Right.
I actually lived there for a while, but not until like 2006, I think. 2005, maybe. But after the garage got to be a little too small for the number of people trying to live there, Q, Zen, and a couple other folks rented a place, on the south side of town, across from the old Jerry's Hamburgers, which came to be known as Park Place. Park Place was a 4-bedroom house.
That's right.
2 living rooms, kitchen. And we threw a bunch of parties there too. It had an old dirt floor basement, which we dug trenches in to make sure moisture stayed away from electrical equipment and whatnot. And then we basically built, like a deck floor in the basement. Cool. Some of the parties there, we'd have live bands down in the basement, and we'd have it simulcast to TVs throughout the house upstairs. Some of those parties were pretty wild too.
Some pretty wild parties. Yeah, I forgot it was called Park Place. So yeah, the one down by the river was the garage.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Actual place. And are you guys actually called the Garage Crew, or is that just me?
Honestly, it wasn't something that we really tossed around at the time. I mean, we didn't really refer to ourselves by any group name or anything, but in retrospect, a little bit further on, the term the Garage Crowd kind of came to be.
But it was
I want to say really officially started. I want to say it was probably about 2001 that Rosie and Q and Zen and a couple others actually developed kind of a bulletin board chat room type of thing for the Garage Crowd. And
right.
So the development of that website really is what started us calling ourselves the Garage Crowd proper.
And you called the Garage Studios the recording.
Yep, Garage Studios, yep.
Cool. And is it true? Man, I don't know if this is correct at all. Is it true Zen is in California?
I didn't see him this year at Cinco de Mustache, but last I knew, him and Amy J actually got married a few years back. Amy had 2 kids from a previous marriage. After she got out of high school, she joined the military, got married, had 2 kids, got divorced. But anyhow, her and Zen got married, and they bought a house. Actually, if you remember where Katie Piazza's old place is, that little cul-de-sac kind of, I want to say it's just a little ways north of Bayless in Beloit. Valley Road, I think.
Yep, I know what you're talking about. Yep.
Yep. Yeah, Zen and Amy J bought a beautiful house in that neighborhood.
Cool.
And his mom still owns Rockford Steam Boiler Works in Roscoe. And last I knew, he was still running the office for that company.
So he was never out there, was he?
He went out there for a while.
I used to live in Sonoma County in 2014 and 15, and I went to go get my muffler fixed. And I swear to God, he was like the guy who was running the place, and he gave me this look, and it took me it was one of those things that it was like an hour later I thought about it. I was like, is that fucking Zen? You know what I mean?
Dude, by 2014, Zen had surgery on his eyes, so he didn't have to wear glasses anymore, and had grown out dreadlocks.
Okay, then no.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Damn, he had a total doppelganger out there then.
No, he went out there a couple of times on road trips and such.
Okay,
so 80s, 90s punk scene. Operation Ivy was the band everybody wanted to be like.
Oh man, they're the
Tim
best.
Armstrong, pre-Rancid, and start to finish, man. Op Ivy's self-titled is still probably one of the best punk rock records of my lifetime.
Well, and the anthology in itself is just awesome, like when they put it all together.
Yeah.
Great band.
But anyhow, so that whole Southern California punk scene in the late 80s and early 90s, the whole Lookout Records scene.
Right.
And the fact is, the Lookout Records scene was centered around 924 Gilman Street, which is a venue out there. Well, Zen had to make the holy pilgrimage out there to see Gilman Street. So he went and he caught some punk show out there, got his member ID card for Gilman Street. So yeah, he was out in California for a while, but it was more of a road trip than moving out there.
Yeah, it was just a strange thing. It's just someone who just looked just like him. But anyways, that was the garage stories, man. I'm sure you could go on with those forever. I mean, remember the what was the Everclear and the blowing the flames against the curtains? Allegedly, some curtains caught on fire many times. It was fun. It was so much fun, man. I mean, you'll never do shit like that again, or maybe, but
still do at least once a year. But we don't destroy near as many window coverings as we used to. That's for sure.
Yeah, man, fun times for sure. All right, cool. I guess I don't really know. What's your musical background? What did you start with music?
Actually, I started off as a drummer actually in 5th grade.
Wow.
Realized within a couple of years I was not very good at it though. So an unnamed band that I was in with a couple of buds from school. I started off playing drums. We met a better drummer. I picked up a bass guitar from Paradise Guitars and learned how to play that a little bit. A couple of crappy punk bands throughout high school.
Right.
Really, Malicious Mischief was the first band that I actually did any serious amount of shows with.
And that was you were doing guitar in that band, or were you still bass? Or
guitar, because Taz sang lead and played bass. Q played keyboards and sang a little bit. I played guitar. Dave played drums and sang a little bit.
That's right. Okay, cool. And then you pretty much stayed lead guitar or rhythm guitar. Well, you still do bass on occasion now, right? Yeah.
Well, so that's kind of a funky story with that. So timeline-wise, Malicious Mischief kind of started drying up around end of 2000. Like by winter of 2000, we were pretty much calling it quits. I had the Third Nipple project that was doing, more metal-based stuff. And did that for a little while. Played some shows here and there. That eventually turned into Mother Noose.
Okay.
And Mother Noose was still doing stuff as recently as a couple of years ago. We played a bunch of shows on and off. When I turned 21, I got invited to join the Mountain Lions. Mountain Lions International, a reggae band. Their original guitar player, Harry, was busy or leaving the band or something. So I joined that band when I was 21, and that lasted through, I want to say the last Mountain Lions gig was when my wife, Kat, and I were dating but not yet married. So
Okay.
2008. So I guess
And
2003 to 2008, I was in the Mountain Lions then.
yeah, and you guys had a great local regional following. And like you said, you were the only reggae band in the area. Now it's changed. You guys probably influenced like the next generation a lot.
Well,
But,
the guys from Unity were doing kind of what we were doing, but they were a little bit further north, like Appleton area. And
that's
then now
right.
I think they're settled a little bit closer to Milwaukee.
Mm.
But yeah, man, we got to tour the country. We didn't travel too far out west, but we hit, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Ohio, Iowa, Indiana, West Virginia, Tennessee, Kentucky. So, I
Nice.
mean, a good 10-state run, and we did a couple of long tours.
So how'd you meet those guys?
Honestly, they were playing before I was bar legal, but I stuck in to see them in a couple of bars.
Nice.
And their bass player, John, was a student at UW-Rock County when I was too. So right after high school, I went to 2 years of community college before I transferred to Beloit College. Yeah, John and I had a couple of classes together, and the smoking section between classes started talking a bit. And then he kind of talked about the music that he was doing with the Mountain Lions. So I'm like, all right, well, that's cool, man. I'll have to sneak in and check you out. Well, Katie Piazza's dad, Pete Piazza, owning the Works down on 4th Street, the Mountain Lions were playing there, so it was nearby where I was at, so drove down there and checked them out.
Nice.
And then after I was 21, and when things started not working out with Harry, John was like, well, hey, dude, do you want the spot?
So had you done much reggae before them, or
Nope.
nothing at all? So you could just pick it up. And I think that's something you're really great at, man. You could just like kind of adapt to styles pretty easily.
I'd listened to plenty of ska, in the 90s.
Oh, hell yeah.
But
Yeah.
reggae, it was a little bit different. I had a lot I had to learn. I never played lead guitar in a band. I just kind of played rhythm. So I had to teach myself how to do guitar solos and stuff. Had to teach myself how to play the upbeat reggae rhythm stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Learn about spring reverb and dub and, all that stuff that went into it.
So was it like, hey, man, you got to learn 20 songs like right away?
Oh, it was way more than that. It was
50 songs?
Like, we've got a show booked, and we don't have time to have a practice with you, so bring your gear and set everything up, and we'll call out the chord changes to you as we go along.
What? No shit? Like on stage? Like
I played probably 3 or 4 shows before we even had a practice together.
Wow.
But
crazy.
that's how busy things were. I mean, we had shows booked, and I had to jump in there and roll with the punches.
You guys
eventually learned things, and we started writing more songs, and then I was able to bring my influences in, and we wrote some more complex stuff.
Yeah.
The first Mountain Lions album, Vibrations, is good and all, but if you listen to the last two albums we put out before we broke up was a double set. So double album, one song of all personal and relationship songs, and another one of all political songs.
Nice.
And those 2 albums branched from reggae to African tribal rhythms, Latin classical and like Latin jazz, like flamenco type of stuff, hip hop. I mean, we funk, R&B, you name it. We tapped into every genre we could get our hands on. I even threw some like Irish folk punk stuff, like some Dropkick Murphys style stuff.
That's
into that record.
Just throw it in the mix. So is the Mountain Lion stuff available online or?
If you look on YouTube, Daniel, our lead singer and keyboard player, has posted a bunch of the old stuff, but not anything comprehensive. And as of right now, it's not on iTunes or Spotify or anything.
Right. Yeah, I should try to get the studio stuff on at least like Bandcamp or something, SoundCloud.
Right. Yeah, if anybody's
I'd like to hear, man.
Send it my way because I don't have anything anymore.
Oh, damn, man. Well, at least YouTube. You can at least find something, a live performance, or if he's posting old audio recordings. But yeah, you guys had a great sound, and you had the pretty dynamic lead singer, and what do you do, the conga or the djembe?
Well, okay. So with that, initially the band was Joseph Cisse on drums and vocals, John Schneider on bass, and then Daniel Mustafa on keyboards and lead vocals. Yeah. And Daniel also had a conga set up. Right. Now, after I'd been in the band for a little while, I brought my roommate, Juan Renteria, in, and Juan had played in metal bands. let's see, what is it now? Five Finger Sedative, I think. Well, Force Fed Chaos is their name now, but they were like Five Finger Sedative for a while. And before that, I think New Skin was the name of the band. But, metal stuff, like really
Yeah.
Sepultura and Pantera inspired stuff. But
Right.
I brought Juan in, and Juan took over on the drum kit. Well, actually, no, he played full-time congas for a while. But then we swapped. We put him behind the kit full-time so Joseph Cisse could grab the djembe and be out more with the audience and interacting with the crowd. I
Yeah.
mean, he'd wander the length of the bar with that thing, just playing the drum and wandering through the crowd.
Yeah, he would go nuts. He was a great front man,
Yeah.
I
But the
mean,
two of them, between Daniel and Joe, they both were from Sierra Leone, West Africa. They didn't
wow.
know each other before getting to the States, but they both went to UW Whitewater and somehow ran into each other there, started talking about music, and
That's crazy.
yeah.
Man. So what's like maybe one of the biggest shows, a festival, or what's one of the proudest things you did with the Mountain Lions if you could think of it?
Oh, man.
I know you toured all
the
over.
Seafoodie
It's
Mustache
awesome.
festivals were all fun, of course. We did play a really large festival in Charleston, West Virginia, some diversity festival. I think we
Nice.
played that like 2 years in a row when we were still actively touring. Um,
Awesome.
I don't know. We, in the early 2000s, managed to get radio play in Guam and Australia.
Hell yeah.
I don't know. There's 2 radio stations in Guam, and apparently both of them still love us. So,
When you guys were consistently playing, like you're playing what, at least like 3-4 times a week, if not more?
during summer, we'd play an average of 5 shows a week. We would usually
Right.
do a Friday night, and then we do like a Saturday afternoon gig somewhere, a Saturday night gig, a Sunday afternoon, and then a Sunday night gig. Every once in a while, you get random stuff during the week, but not really reliably.
Right.
During the winter, it tamed down. It was usually just Fridays and Saturdays.
Yeah, and it's harder to travel, and yeah, I do the same thing. Everything slows down certain times of year, and so yeah, that's another thing we could talk about. I guess. I guess for the most part, for a while you've had a consistency of shows being part of your income, but it hasn't always been the main, or you've kind of gone back and forth.
I've always
worked.
managed some sort of day job.
Right. Yeah.
Even when I was in college, I was working a couple of waitering jobs to make ends meet.
Right.
I went to college to be a high school history and music teacher.
No shit.
Currently, I'm an insurance salesman, so
And you play in how many bands?
just 2 right now. I play with Roxtar. Oh, that's right. We were talking about bass guitar, and that's kind of how we kind of got off on this tangent.
There you go.
So after the Mountain Lions started slowing down in 2006, I took a year off from drinking. And so my buddy Marty Zambellin, who was one of the original residents at Park Place, he was running sound at a club called the Back Bar in Janesville. And he's like, well, Dencker, if you're just sitting around drinking diet soda, why don't you come and check out some bands and get out of the house a little bit?
Right.
Well, all right, so fine. So I started going to shows there, and I'd sit around and crack jokes with him when he was running sound for bands. And after a while, the normal door guy didn't show up. So the owner, Bob, he comes over to me. He's like, Dencker, you're sober. You're not doing anything. Toss you free sodas and $20 if you work the door tonight. All right. So I sat there and checked IDs and charged admission for people to get in. That went on for a little while. And eventually Bob turns to me and he's like, you know what? I had a couple come in here, a father-son team, a guitar player, singer, and a drummer. And they want to start a house band, but they need a bass player. Would you think about doing it? And again, because I was on the sober path at the time, it's like, I don't know if I really need to keep throwing myself in the bar even more. But you know what? Yeah, screw it. Let's do it.
You for the love of the music, man. You got to play.
Right. So I joined up with Jim and Brett and Solia, and we started the Back Bar Band. From there, a buddy of mine, Shock Leitner, he lived in Elkhorn and just kind of randomly showed up at the Back Bar because he heard it was a rock club and heard it was a cool place to hang out. So him and his girlfriend came out and kept coming out week after week after week after week. And eventually we roped Shock into playing second guitar and singing backup with the Back Bar Band.
Ah.
Eventually, Jim got in a little disagreement with the owner, Bob. And so Jim kind of parted ways. I still stayed friends with him. I'm still friends with him on Facebook. I don't see him as often as I used to.
Right.
So then Shock basically had to kind of reinvent the back bar band. So he recruited some of his bandmates from his old band Roxtar to kind of form the new house band. And eventually that band took the name Roxtar, Roxtar. You fast forward to end of 2006. I had a girlfriend at the time who had broken up with me, so I had a lot of free time on my hands all of a sudden. Shock calls me up because their bass player's flaking out on a gig. It's a Thursday night. They host the open Thursday night jams at the back bar.
Yeah.
So he's like, look, dude, I need somebody to fill in. Show starts at 8. Can you learn these 20 songs? At the time, I didn't have internet at my house, and I was only at work until 5. He called me at like 4. So I had an hour to create a cheat sheet, looking up tablature on the internet on my work computer. So I created this cheat sheet and played these 20 songs. And this was all like JJO radio rock stuff that I'd never heard these songs before in my life. I don't listen to Puddle of Mud.
Yeah, no shit.
So I learned all those songs and played the show. And he's like, dude, you played those songs better with no rehearsal than a regular bass player does. Do you want the gig? Like this is like deja vu. This is like almost exactly what the Mountain Lions told me like 10 years ago.
Yeah, right. Wow. It fell into your lap again.
Yep. So I did that, and yeah, I played bass with Roxtar. We started in 2006-ish. The band was together since 2004, but like I said, in Elkhorn and with different people. But I played bass up until about 2 years ago. I've got arthritis pretty bad, psoriatic arthritis. And honestly, playing a 5-string bass with giant, thick cable strings, and it's super heavy because it's a Fender bass. It's not a lightweight one. A Fender jazz bass is almost as heavy as a Les Paul. Right. Eventually, it started to get too bad on my arthritis, where I was having so much joint pain in my fingers. I found something called a Little Thunder. It's a guitar pickup that drops the lowest note on your lowest 3 strings an octave, so you can basically fake a bass line.
Cool.
So I still play the 5-string on a couple of songs that just really need that real bass, but otherwise, I basically play rhythm guitar and fake the bass. On my side of the stage, I've got a full guitar rig and my full bass rig, and basically a wireless run out, one through my guitar effects rig and one through my bass effects rig. So I'm simultaneously playing bass and guitar for Roxtar now.
So yeah, Roxtar is still going. I was gonna say, I've seen posts and whatnot. Yeah, it's funny. I play with the guy out here. He has this like crazy Helix board. He does the same thing. He can make his guitar sound like a bass through that, and it sounds pretty clean, honestly.
Yeah.
But it was that's what I was kind of mentioning earlier when the Green and the Grit started. I was living in a garage. Well, it was a garage. Above it was like a loft, basically. And this was and then Mark lived in the house that was attached to that garage. So like we were like recording and practicing as a Grit, and this was in Janesville, like literally less than 10 minutes from the back bar. So basically, once we started going to those open jams every Thursday, and they had the free taco guy. This was 2008, free tacos. And open jam, it was like very cheap Budweiser, some cheap beer, and we loved it, man.
We got the tap beer in there. It was great.
Yeah,
when I first started playing there, though, 2006, 2007, it was all bottled beer.
Oh, right.
But once we got the tap beer and getting free tap beer, oh yeah, that was great.
Those were a lot of fun times, and a lot of times we just end up jamming at the end of it, and like a lot of different bands used to come through.
Yeah. Yeah, if we knew a touring band was coming through, if they were playing Madison or Chicago on Friday or Saturday, we'd be like, well, hey, dudes, you want to come out and play on Thursday on your way there?
Like, so promote it, right?
Whatever
like,
bands were touring.
Yeah, and how long did that open jam last? Did that end recently, or?
So,
oh, God, you were there so many times.
With me and the Insolias, we started doing that in, I want to say it was May of 2006. Might have been April. Probably May of 2006. And Roxtar finally stepped down from doing it 2018. I want to say July of 2018.
Wow,
So
man.
I literally was there every Thursday night. They were open for 12 years of my life.
That was some dedication. You guys were getting paid eventually, right? Kind of.
Not much. We
Right.
got free beer. We got a place to practice.
Right.
Shock actually managed the place a little bit for a while and helped do, clean up and such and bartending and whatnot.
Right.
Me, the best pay that I got was that I eventually convinced Bob to let me host a punk rock night there.
Oh, nice.
Bob's son Kyle actually contacted me about it. Kyle was one of the bartenders out at the back bar, and he wanted to do a punk rock night and asked me if I would help him organize it, DJ it, set everything up. So for 2 years, I want to say it was like 2009 to 2011. Yeah, we had a weekly punk rock night out there every Wednesday night.
That's awesome.
So I DJ. I brought bands in a couple of times. A couple of times I brought in some punk rock stand-up comics.
Nice.
But yeah, basically just we would get as much of the old crew together and some of the new crew and sit there and drink cheap beer. I think we had $5 pitchers of High Life. But yeah, I just curate a list of songs and just pump it through the PA. If people had requests, I'd go and download it as quick as I could off I think I started off using like LimeWire or something. But eventually Spotify or YouTube or whatever I could grab stuff. So I'd handle requests on the fly, throw them onto the playlist.
Crazy. Yeah. That's funny because you said you didn't recognize the songs. And that was, to me, I didn't see you perform live since like Malicious Mischief. And then I saw Rockstar and I was like, wait a second, Punk Rock Dencker, what's going on?
You're right.
But I get it though. You're working.
Now Rockstar though, song wise, is a lot more balanced. I love cheesy 80s stuff. So now we do some Billy Idol. We do
nice.
Outfield. We do Tears for Fears.
Hell yeah.
And then 90s alternative stuff. Before I got into punk rock, I was listening to Bush and Smashing Pumpkins and Nirvana and bands like that. Okay, so cool. We get to do some of that 90s alternative stuff.
Right, grungy
and then the one other real big segment of our song list is female sung pop songs turned into rock songs. We do Katy Perry. We do not one but 2 Taylor Swift songs.
Oh,
we take a Shania Twain song and play it on a 7-string guitar so that it sounds like Korn. Okay.
What? Oh my God, that's crazy.
It's awesome though. I mean, we are just a bunch of just get drunk party band. We play songs that everybody's going to recognize. We make them a little bit heavier, a little bit harder rock, a little bit of a punk edge to it, but not too much. And yeah, I mean, it's just good fun.
Yeah, you guys, it was always a good time. And I remember at one point you guys were almost doing like acoustic sets of something. Maybe it was like the drummer was absent.
Because we did have some revolving door policies with our drummers for a while.
Yeah, that'll happen. I can understand. Totally understand. But yeah, a lot of good times there. Oh shit, what was I gonna say? Who knows? But
yeah, let's see, where were we going? Oh, yeah, the whole punk rock thing, punk rock night at the back bar. So that eventually dried up. Just unfortunately, all my regulars either got early first shift day jobs or had kids or somehow had to grow up a little bit where drinking till 2 a.m. on a Wednesday night wasn't really practical anymore.
Yeah.
Fast forward till 2 years ago, I actually started DJing at first for a radio station called The Rock Asylum. They were just an online radio station. And then WADR, community radio in Janesville, actually picked up my show and syndicated it.
Nice.
Rock Asylum's gone out of business, but I still do my radio show on WADR every Thursday night from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Central Time. And then it re-airs Saturdays from 7 to 10 Central Time. That's 103.5 WADR if you're in Janesville. Otherwise, janesvilleradio.org. You can pick it up anywhere in the world. It's simulcast on the website, free of charge. You don't have to have an app. It is on like TuneIn and some of those radio apps, but you can stream it free right off the website.
Right, yeah. Shout out to Derek. I actually recorded some drum tracks recently there. He's awesome. He's a really cool guy.
But yeah, so I'm still basically doing the punk rock night. I just do it digitally, and I have
keeping it alive
myself while I'm doing it, and
right on.
Everybody else has to join me virtually, I guess.
Yeah, and so So it's Rockstar and Gas Can Alley are your two bands you still play with.
Mhm.
And Gas Can Alley, you're more busy. That's like rockabilly style.
Yeah,
Old
rockabilly, a little bit
school.
of punk rock.
Cool.
It's me, the bass player. Jared was another guy that I went to URock with. He's 1 year older than me. He's class of '99 for high school. But then a slightly older drummer and singer. And yeah, doing old school rockabilly stuff. Johnny Cash, Elvis.
How about Dion and the Belmonts.
Yep, Dion and the Belmonts. We do a little bit of that. We do some of the Temptations, which isn't really rockabilly at all, but it still falls under oldies station stuff, so it's close enough.
You do it in your style to make it.
Exactly. Yeah, you put a little bit of spring reverb on it and a little slapback delay. Doesn't matter. It sounds like rockabilly.
And so you're playing pretty consistently, like every weekend with both these bands, right?
Rockstar will do usually 1 to 2 shows a month, and then pretty much every other weekend. I had last weekend off, and it was weird. But usually I'm booked just about every weekend. Like February, aside from 1 week when I'm in Florida, I do not have a Saturday night free.
Well, and things just kind of slow down a little bit, like we said, in the winter in general.
Yeah, winter in Wisconsin will do that.
Yeah, Vermont, it's not much different. I'm 12 miles from Canada, where I am.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, cool.
I'm up there.
Mm-hmm.
But cool. So where can you find I get Gas Can Alley and Rockstar both on Facebook?
Well, Rockstar, and Gas Can Alley are both on Facebook. You can look us up there. ROXTAR. Otherwise, I mean, gig-wise, since we don't know when this episode is going to broadcast, February 1st, Rockstar will be at Brock's Riverwalk in Fort Atkinson. The 8th, Gas Can Alley will be at Ducks Crossing in Jefferson. Actually, the 31st is a benefit show for WADR at URock, the Kirk Denmark Theater, from 7 to 10. So actually, that's a great chance to check out a bunch of the bands that Derek Shavink has recorded for his show in the Stratosphere.
I'm
bunch of those bands that get played on WADR to raise money to keep the station afloat.
Are you guys by chance involved? He asked me recently to do this Elvis Costello tribute. Like he's doing it, I think it's the 6th of February. I mean, he wanted me to record a song. He's going to play it online on the show. Rockabilly, I mean, I don't know. Elvis Costello.
Well, with that, every year Derek does a tribute to the day rock and roll died, or the day music died, when Buddy Holly, the Big Bopper, Richard Valens died in the plane crash.
Yeah. So
every year his show does a tribute to that, and Gas Can Alley contributed. What did we do? We did Donna the first year, and I think we did another one the second year.
Okay, so you've already done it. Awesome.
Yep. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, if we have the time, maybe we'll learn another one and cut it quick. Otherwise, Derek's he's still got our version of Donna. He can reuse that all he wants, man. He's free to re-air it whenever he cares to.
Yeah, I'm hopefully gonna get my shit together and get a version of something out there.
Yep.
But cool, man. I just wanted to say briefly. I think it was around 2003 or 4. I was doing this weird hip hop thing. It was almost I don't know what you would call it, like hip hop meets metalish something. I don't know, but and we went to Dencker because he offered to record us, and he kind of showed me how he was doing it and the program Cool Edit Pro. And honestly, I've used that program for years. I kind of like took that information and ran with it. And to this day, I use Adobe Audition, which is actually based a lot on the same thing of Cool Edit Pro. So I just wanted to say thanks for that, because I was fucking, I don't know. I think we only recorded with you like once or twice, and then I was like, wait, it's this easy? I just like bought a mixer. I was like, okay.
Take the old computer, plug the mixer in the back of it.
When you're only doing vocals, it is that easy. I'm like making beats on a drum machine and a computer program and what have you. And then, then fast forward in 2007, I had this this when I first tried to do like this folky country shit. I had this strange MySpace following. I guess it wasn't too strange, but it was like, I don't know, at that time, MySpace was so huge, and it's almost like a lot of people could get followings. And one of the biggest songs I had, I believe it was almost 5,000 plays. I know it was at least 3,000, was Get Lost. and you did this awesome lead guitar part that made it sound like I had like a lap steel guitarist playing, but you did it with like your whammy bar, and I don't know, you had a Strat, or maybe you had I don't know what you had, but
I don't even remember what guitar I brought with for that.
And then like we did, it was like a half a year later, I did like a song that was similar, tried to get you to do the same thing, because that song just was, well, it was like the most popular song I put out in that time, you know. So it was pretty cool, you know. I thought it was cool for you to be a part of that, just knowing you from the past and whatnot. And yeah, you put some really, I think you played bass on that song too.
Maybe.
You did this cool like.
And that was before I knew anything about country music. I mean, that was before I joined Can Alley, so I had no idea what the hell I was doing.
Well, in the song particular, it was almost like a country blues sort of a chord progression, but you like, it was like minor, so it was like you brought this almost metal-ish thing to it that like worked, you know, so it didn't even necessarily matter. But yeah, the fact that you made it sound like a lap steel, it was a trip, man. It was like some heavy reverb, or it was like, I have a copy of that somewhere, which will be playing as we talk about this.
Right? Yeah, dude. When you find it, float me a copy. Like, send me a file or something. I'd love to hear it.
Oh, I definitely have all that stuff, because you did. I know at least 3, if not like 4 or 5 songs like during that period, and you know, it was like a lot of it was pretty quick and on the spot, but you made it sound awesome for sure. So
glad I could help.
Cheers. But ooh, yeah, we could wrap this up. I guess you blasted your the bands you're in. Any plans for the musical future? Just keep doing your thing, or?
Well, for the next couple of years, yeah, I'll be in Janesville, still playing with Roxtar and Can Alley. My wife Kat and I, plan is, well, we're selling the house that we own in Janesville, getting some debts paid off. But 4 or 5 years down the road, hopefully, we're going to be moving someplace where it doesn't snow.
Nice.
Current plan, we're looking at kind of Gulf Coast, Florida, kind of St. Petersburg, Tampa Bay area.
Okay.
So
both my brothers live in Florida.
But yeah, so get out of the snow and move someplace where it's constant sunshine and, you know, doesn't dip below 60 degrees.
Yeah, totally, man. The winters can truly be brutal, and especially you grow up in it, you just get sick of it after a while. So
yeah.
So shit, you're not even 40 yet. I didn't realize you were.
Yeah,
38. 3 years old. Right on. Cool. Well, thanks again, man. Appreciate you being on the podcast. I'd love to have you back. Like I said, we could go for hours talking about garage stories, especially if you just like pick a night.
We go too much more than the cursory hour, and I think we might start getting into stuff that the statute of limitations might not have ran out on yet.
That is true. So yeah, well, yeah, like you said, it all started when you were 13, so that's just now 25 years ago. So, right? Isn't that the actual?
You feel old.
Oh shit! Wow. Yeah. Well, right on, man.
Thanks again for having me, man.
Yeah, for sure. And thanks again. This is Jacob Green. This is Music, the Universal Language Podcast, and it's Chris Dencker. Peace, man. Good talking to you.
Thanks.
See ya.
Take it easy.